For our next keynote, you'll be hearing from Seth Goldman, co-founder and CEO at Eat the Change. Seth will be interviewed by Groceryshop's Vice President of Content, Joe Laszlo.
To the Groceryshop stage. Welcome to our unusually fresh event this year. It's awesome to have you back. The last time you were on stage with us was 2019.
It's a different world.
It's a bit of a different place. What have you been up to since then?
Well, I thought I had left the beverage business in 2019, and unexpectedly, we found an incredible opportunity to jump back in. And some friends of me said, "Why would you do that? You got out."
Yeah, you're done with tea, and tea just pulled you back.
It pulled me back, and I'm actually thrilled to be back. And I thought it was a good way to give people a sense of why I'm so excited. I will share a quick video, a sourcing video. For me, what Honest Tea was about, and what Just Iced Tea is always about, is that authentic connection to the planet and to the community we source from. And so earlier this year, my co-founder, Chef Spike Mendelson, and I visited Mozambique, where we buy our tea, and we put together just a short video.
Yeah, let's watch.
My co-founder, Chef Spike Mendelson, and I visited our newest tea supplier to better understand the impact of fair trade.
Oh, Seth, look.
There it is.
This is what
This is worth all the travel.
This is worth every single minute of travel.
With every pound of tea we buy, a portion of the money is directed to a workers' council, which decides how the money will be spent.
Being my first time at a tea garden, just the travel out here, the remoteness is just absolutely breathtaking. And of course, the people, the people here that make up the tea gardens, that farm the land, and take care of it.
The natural ecosystem, the incredible balance here. There are no external inputs. Everything for this garden is supported, comes from the garden. It's all here.
Thank you for the tea. Cheers.
Cheers.
Let's make the sound. I'm sure most of the audience know, but for those who don't, you founded Honest Tea
25 years ago.
Sort of the story that Rodney was just telling on stage. A young brand found a passionate following with customers. A big CPG bought it, and then in May of 2022, Coca-Cola announced that they were going to discontinue Honest Tea. Yeah. So how long did it take between you hearing the news to deciding that you're going to get back into the tea business?
Yeah, this was an unexpected call I got on a weekend saying, could I speak to Coca-Cola management? And I had a sense what was coming, and I was heartbroken. In fact, I have my wife and I have 3 adult sons. They were crying because they knew this was like the fourth brother. And so for a week, we were just despondent. And by the end of that week, both because we got reached out to by a bunch of people, and I had posted something on LinkedIn that got over 1 million views, we said, wait a minute, this is an incredible opportunity. The market is still very much there. The communities still are growing incredible tea. Just because this brand is going away doesn't mean what Honest Tea stood for should go away. And so literally by June 6th, we decided we were going to do something about it. We were going to launch a brand. By September 6th, 90 days later, we had sold our first bottle of Just Iced Tea. So I don't know any other brand that's sort of come to life that quickly, but obviously we had all the wiring in the organization, the supply chain, the people, and already now we are the top selling brand in the natural foods channel.
That's amazing. I can't imagine doing it quite that fast. Let me ask you about the name too. I love it. Just Iced Tea. You seem to it's a little bit of a pun, right? Justice Tea, Honest Tea, Equality, Liberty, Fraternity could be your next ones. But how did you come up with Just Iced Tea?
So my co-founder from Honest Tea, Barry Nelbuff, is still working with us. He's on our board. And because somebody said to me, well, what agency did you work with? I said, that was no agency. That was Seth and Barry, going back and forth on the phone over a weekend. And it just like when I had heard Honest Tea the first time, it clicked. And when he came up with, we had other names. One idea we were working with was Integrity, which spells integrate, but that was taken. And so when he said Just Iced Tea, just justice. It totally resonated because of the commitment we have with fair trade, because of the environmental aspect, and because of the taste. It all made sense.
Yeah. Well, surely your Honest Tea experience is one of the things that made it so fast to do this time around. Is it easier or harder?
It's more joyful because I don't have the same level of fear. I mean, when I started out 25 years ago, I had never done this before, and neither had the team. So this team is more than half the people have worked with me, either at Honest Tea or Coca-Cola. They know the wiring, they know how to build a brand, and the consumer is already built. When we started Honest Tea, people weren't used to a less sweet taste, they weren't used to organic, they weren't used to fair trade. A lot of those things weren't even, people were aware of. And so now the world is much further along on all three of those dimensions, and so much more receptive to it. Our ACV and our velocity is higher, so it's happening very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, less than a year.
And we've been able to compress. So the first 8 years of any startup are brutal, and we have basically done the growth Honest Tea did at 8 years in one. And so to skip a lot of that brutality is a welcome change.
Brutality would be a tough one to sell.
That would be a tough one to sell.
Let's take a step back, though, because what you've actually been up to since Honest Tea, since the last time you were on stage, is Eat the Change.
Yes.
And so maybe for those in the audience who don't know Eat the Change, say a quick word about the mission of that organization.
So we started out, Spike and I, we have some restaurants that we co-founded called Plant Burger, and so I said, how could we create, one of the slogans Plant Burger came up with was Eat the Change you wish to see in the world, which is so resonated with me because what we eat is our single biggest environmental impact, and of course it is what we become. And so if you want to change your impact, you have to change what you eat. And so we really, with a blank slate, said, what would a leading edge, planet-friendly food company look like? And so of course, plant-based, no animal products, organic, emphasizing biodiversity, emphasizing food waste, making sure there's no food waste, and so we stood up a snack company. So we initially had a mushroom jerky, we have an amazing carrot snack, and then the tea business fell into our lap, and we said, well, wait a minute, does that fit the thesis? And it does, because tea, of course, our tea is organic, there's no water usage at all, it's only rainfall, and the plants regenerate automatically. So literally the harvesting of tea, you pick leaves, you come back in a few weeks and you pick from the same bush again. So it's an incredibly environmentally friendly product. And so then it just fit the thesis. And the only major change was that one of Eat the Change's commitments is, as I said, biodiversity. We make a policy of not using the 6 most common ingredients. So there's no sugar, corn, wheat, soy, potatoes, or rice in any of our recipes. Wow. Well, sugar was a key ingredient in Honest Tea. Instead, we'll use agave or we'll use honey.
Nice. That's great. So I think it's so interesting that you kind of started with the mission, like what kind of company do we want, and then what products do we make to kind of fit that overarching.
And just a little interesting aspect of it, because when we started the company, we had investors, and so they said, well, so we had to make sure when you take in money, you have to make sure you're doing what you said you would do with the money they invest. And so I checked, in fact, one of our big investors is S2G Ventures, and the person we work with is Walter Robb, former co-CEO of Whole Foods, and he said, this is, we didn't invest in mushroom jerky, we invested in entrepreneurs who were be able to capitalize on health and environmental, trends. And that's what you're doing.
Yeah. That mission of snacks that are better for people, better for the planet, like that inherently resonates with a certain segment of the consumer audience. And I think to your point, it's one that's growing. There's more awareness and whatnot, but it's not everybody yet. There's some consumers out there who kind of think, oh, that stuff's not for me, right? And how do you reach out with kind of the brand and the product to those consumers who kind of need a gentle, positive kind of story that kind of convinces them it's not just for those coastal elite type people?
Yeah, we'll never sell the environmental aspect first. Even though the name Eat the Change is out there, we've got to make sure we have a product that tastes great, that looks delicious, that's branded well, and so that's what we'll emphasize. And so for us, sampling is a key element. To the extent we can create online excitement, we'll do that too. But the product and the name always have to come first.
Yeah. Talk about a little bit about kind of distribution and scale, and just kind of where do you want Eat the Change products so that they're in front of that customer?
We want to be everywhere. I mean, we start in the natural channel. That's always the foundation of our business, and it's great that we are the best-selling tea in Whole Foods because that's the launch pad that'll take us elsewhere. But we want to go into wherever beverages are sold or wherever snacks are distributed. We actually have some school systems already looking at our carrot snacks, which is really exciting because that's the goal, is to be in that lunchbox, to be, it's a much healthier snack than the fruit snack, which is a fruit chew, which is usually not any fruit in it. And so we want to make healthier products more readily available.
Yeah. How much are you thinking about direct to consumer, or like how much is it retail partners?
And not much. I mean, one of the kind of gifts of a glass bottle tea is you can't ship it through the mail. At least you can't do it well. So it lets us focus. I'm sure we're actually at Expo East later this week launching a can product so that may be a little more friendly to mail to consumer, but we've got to build that connection in bricks and mortar for us.
It's so interesting to see water, right, going from plastic bottles to aluminum cans, tea going from glass to aluminum.
Yeah, we're not going to do plastic this time around. Honest Tea did, but Eat the Change won't.
Yeah, cool. Okay, that's really exciting. I'm sure there are folks in the audience who are either already have kind of up-and-coming young CPG products that they're passionate about. They'll probably all be joining you at Expo East at the end of the week, or they're thinking about it. Like, do you have any pieces of advice that you've learned from either the first time around or the Eat the Change time around?
You've got to find some part of your business that works. And I'll be honest, our mushroom jerky didn't work. It was too small a market, too small a category. Even if we succeeded, it was going to be too small an opportunity. So you've got to find traction somewhere. And so the natural foods channel is a great place to trial because it's small enough that you don't have to, do a huge production run and then write off a bunch of inventory or realize you've got it wrong. So start somewhere. And it's fine if it's 6 stores. It's fine if it's a farmer's market. Start somewhere and iterate and listen to the consumer and continue to evolve.
Yeah, that's sounds like really valuable advice. I want to kind of drill into that a little though, because one of your products is a kid's product, and kids are notoriously like, they'll say anything and they don't really know what they want sometimes. Like how did you focus group the carrot product with kids, and what did they say about it?
Well, it's very funny because the carrot snack is very much modeled after Honest Kids, which is by the way still alive, still a vibrant brand, something we're still very proud of. And we always joked because when we launched Honest Kids in the Coca-Cola system, some of the folks from the Minute Maid warehouse division came to me and said, we got some concerning news. We tested Honest Kids with kids and they didn't like it. It wasn't preferred. I thought, you wasted your money. I could have told you that. And it's a very weird slogan, but the informal slogan was Honest Kids is, it tastes good enough that a kid won't reject it. and we knew the parent wanted it. So it was, for us, that was a great way to, and obviously it works. So with the carrot snack, what we'll do is we'll let someone taste it. Don't tell them it's carrots. And they'll say, oh, this tastes great. And then we actually have redesigned the packaging, de-emphasizing the carrots because we think the carrots will scare people off. And instead, if they just say, oh, this is kind of we call it a cosmic chew, and let them just taste it. And so the sampling will be really important. Parents, again, will know it's healthier because it is just carrots. It's not gelatin or tapioca starch. And then if it tastes good for the kid, that's fine.
Don't even tell them what's in the packet. That's great. So let's take a step back in the last part of our conversation. Just talk about the changing world of food. You've said, and I really like it, you kind of are focused on the undoing of food, supply chains getting simpler, organic products, that kind of thing, and the redoing of food, kind of science making food better for people and the planet. And those kind of feel contradictory.
You
have to like split personality yourself to kind of.
They all go in the same belly, in the same stomach. So look, I think our food system is having a huge impact on the planet. We know what's going on with the planet, and so we have to find ways as we use our water, our land, and energy to make it more efficient. And so we have to continue to search out solutions that are both undoing, which is simplifying, or in this case, like a tea here, organic and very low footprint. And then we also have to look at a redoing, and that's a case of a product like Beyond Meat, where I'm chair of the board. We have to think about how do we use science to recreate certain categories and do it in a way that's much more environmentally friendly. So a product like Beyond Meat compared to a beef burger from a cow will use 99% less water, 93% less land, and create 90% fewer greenhouse gases. And so if we can replicate the taste and texture of meat while making it nutritious or even more nutritious, less saturated fat, no cholesterol, and deliver on taste and texture, that's a better thing for the consumer and for the planet. And so I think we have to pursue both of those. It's one thing I'll say is with undoing and redoing, it's not a straight line. It's not like it's all going to go this way. It's going to be iterations and evolutions for the consumer and for the industry.
Yeah, last time you were on our stage, actually, 2019 was kind of like peak hype for plant-based meat. What do you see the future? I mean, you've just kind of talked a little bit about it, but what do you see the future for plant-based?
Yeah, I'm still very excited. I mean, one of the great examples of growth we're seeing with Beyond Meat is in Europe. And often Europe leads a lot in terms of health or environmental awareness. And so you're now seeing Beyond Meat distributed in almost most of the McDonald's across Europe, and not just sort of offered at the back of the menu, right at the front of the menu. When you go to the kiosk, it's right there. In grocery as well. And it's interesting, here in the United States, there's still let's say some hesitancy around maybe perhaps what are the health qualities of it or even the environmental aspect. In Europe, they get it much more deeply. And so just like a lot of times what's happening in the West Coast inspires the East, I think in this case what happens in Europe inspires what happens here too.
The other thing that I'm seeing a lot about in the industry press is cultured meat and self-grown, lab-grown, and not just meat, but like dairy as well feels like that's something that's coming. Are you enthused or just keeping an eye on it?
I'm keeping an eye on it. I think, as I said, we need solutions from every angle, so I'm not cheering against them. I do think there's going to be a marketing challenge because if we really believe in transparency, you're going to have to talk about this product. You can't just say, oh, this is filet mignon. You're going to have to say cultured filet mignon or cell-replicated filet mignon, and I think that creates a marketing challenge. I also think scaling that is going to be harder. Meanwhile, the plant-based foods are continuing to improve, not just on taste and texture, but on the label, the sort of clarity of ingredients. So, obviously I've made my bet in that category, and I think that's going to work.
So the title for our session was The Joys and Challenges of Scaling Mission-Driven Brands. And I think we kind of hit on what it means to be a mission-driven brand, but I want to kind of come back to like that. I think a lot of founders, even if they've kind of set up their company as like a B Corp, which has some safeguards, guardrails to make sure that the mission stays the mission, like there's always this fear that they'll get too big or somebody else will buy them and something will happen to make them move away from the mission. I want to talk a little bit about what you're doing with Tony's Chocolonely, where I love your title there. You're a mission guardian at Tony's Chocolonely, which kind of sounds like you're in the Marvel Cinematic Universe or something like that. But talk a little bit about how they're safeguarding their mission.
Yeah. So one thing that's important, and this is, I think, there's a false assumption that growth and scale can dilute a mission. I don't believe that. I believe when you have a mission embedded in your product, I feel scale is there's an urgency to it because it means more impact. So I absolutely am a believer in bringing mission-driven businesses to scale. The challenge, as you note, is that sometimes if they go through a change in ownership, the mission can get lost or diluted. There are not people looking out for it. And so I was approached by the CEO of Tony's, who I had known. He had been the CEO of Innocent Drinks, and so when we were launching Honest Tea in Europe, we got to know each other, and he said, look, we're growing really quickly, and we don't know what the future holds for our business, but we do know as a mission-driven company, and Tony's is a commitment to exploitation-free cocoa. So there's a lot of slave labor in the cocoa industry, and they wanted to make sure they could embed a commitment to protect their sourcing, 5 sourcing principles. And he said, we need a stakeholder or a group of stakeholders, in this case 3, who don't report to shareholders, who don't have an equity stake in the company, so they're not going to be looking out for their own interest. Our only accountability is to the mission. And so we have full transparency to the company. We get to see whatever we want to see. We're going to go to Côte d'Ivoire, where a lot of the cocoa is sourced, to make sure we can look at the supply chain with our own eyes. But obviously there's an ongoing transparency around that. And it's an interesting new model to try to protect that for perpetuity.
So fascinating, right? So in terms of you've got stock in the company that doesn't give you dividends, but it gives you kind of a veto if the company tries to do something that violates the mission. You and your fellow mission guardians like step in, and it's really interesting.
Yeah, and just to be clear, that stock has 0 economic value. So
you can't sell it, you can't do anything with it except vote in these cases. Do you think other B Corp kind of mission-driven companies will adopt that?
I hope so. I mean, well, let's see. This is an experiment, so let's see. What happens is if we find something that doesn't feel right, they have a chance to redress it. And if they don't, we have the opportunity to, basically, they'll pay for us to put ads, out wherever we want to put out or put in their annual report. We don't think this company is living up to what it says. So it's a risk for them, and I hope it is something that becomes a model.
Yeah, great. Well, we're almost out of time, but my last question would just be, since it's joys and challenges, what's one thing that you see coming for Eat the Change that brings you joy?
Well, launching the tea, not just in the natural channel, but beyond. And so we're just, we've sort of, in this first year, gotten to where we wanted to be to build that foundation. And the next step is now bringing it to scale to national grocers, to other retailers, to food service channels. And the joy is what you saw in the video, where you see this community seeing the economic opportunity. We're actually partnering with Rotary clubs around the country to build a pathology clinic. That community in Mozambique has the life expectancy in that province is 54 years old. And so there's just a need to bring healthcare to that source. So that's a source of joy. And then to see the consumer embrace this product and this proposition and this mission, again, is really joyful.
Well, congratulations. I know you didn't necessarily envision yourself ever being pulled back into the tea game, but I think we're all happy that you are. So
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us,
Great.
Seth.
Thank you.
Thank you all